Hear you.
Okay, we're live now. I
What's
guess I.
up, everybody? This is my live stream now. I now capture it. What's up, everyone? Welcome to my show. These guys are just here for me to yell at them. So, no, not really. We're all here because Ladarian knows how to use StreamYard and he's cool. Um, let's talk about Newsom.
Okay, let me start with my introduction statement. Put my face on the camera. My name is Ladarian. I am a Democrat from Texas, and I am against the recall of Governor Newsom for these particular reasons. Number one, he's not going to abolish the. Number two, um, he's not going to, make California like Texas because there will be a dramatic phase for California. So that's why I voted against the recall. Who's next?
I can go ahead and go next.
Okay, let me take myself off of here. Okay, you're next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Robert Gonzalez, and I'm a Democrat and a 19-year resident in California. And I'm voting no on the recall because I don't think right now is the time or place to recall Governor Gavin Newsom. And it's not just about recalling Governor Gavin Newsom; it's about recalling all of the progress that we have made. If we recall Governor Gavin Newsom, it's going to be devastating. We don't want to be looking like Texas, like Florida, with COVID cases all over the place, women's rights at stake, voting rights are vulnerable, and ICU numbers are skyrocketing. Right now, we want to focus on the economy, immigration rights, voting rights, and social and economic justice.
All right, my turn. All right. By the way, can you guys hear a fan in the background or no?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. So I'm not in California, but I am mildly campaigning to recall Gavin Newsom on the basis of his tremendous track record as far as the California economy and income inequality, as well as his track record on COVID 19 and his involvement with Harvey Weinstein. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're doing the 90 seconds again.
Yeah, what part of the recall do you want to talk about? Lidarian, you can start.
I would like to talk about why I was doing this, what is the purpose of recalling him. And, I want to talk about what now and talk about that.
Okay. All right, I'll have your 90 seconds to that. Whoa,
Okay.
my phone unplugged. Um, got my 90-second timer right here.
Hmm.
Whenever you're ready, go right ahead.
Okay. I don't. The reason why I don't necessarily agree with the recall is because California is a heavily blue state, and recalling that state particularly when there's a Democratic governor, when there is a the same governor who helped bring down the COVID cases in California, the same governor who will abolish the minimum wage, and the same governor who will not sorry for the background noise, the same governor who will not damage the state, um, things of that nature. California is a heavily populated state with millions and millions of people. And if COVID rises in that state, there will be serious cases of devastation, many deaths, and many lives will be lost. So I totally agree with Governor Newsom when he has lowered the COVID cases because of his governorship. He has lowered the deaths and things of that nature. His administration has been working well with COVID-19 in California, and I applaud him for that because Texas should be doing the same thing as well.
All right,
Um,
Gonzalez.
yeah, I'll go next. So I'm a California resident, and this recall is a bit personal because during I've had COVID before, and I know that if Governor Gavin Newsom is recalled and somehow Larry Elder or any of the Trump Republicans become governor, I know that the trajectory that we're on right now, in terms of COVID response by Governor Gavin Newsom, it's going to be way better than what we're going to have from a Trump Republican like Kevin Faulconer or John Cox or Caitlyn Jenner or Larry Elder. And just like what Ladarian said, with respects to Texas and Florida, we don't want to become the state with the highest ICU numbers, with the highest
Mhm.
COVID cases in America. What we need to focus on is voting rights. We need to focus on mask wearing, vaccine requirements. We focus on social and economic justice. We need to focus on protecting women's rights to choose. In Texas, they just banned abortion. In 6 weeks, so it just doesn't make sense. Um, we need to keep on protecting what we have here in California and protect our economy. If California was alone, a country on its own, we would have the fifth largest economy in the entire world. And with the Republican in charge, we wouldn't have that same luxuries and liberties that we have today with Governor Gavin Newsom and myself. I know that Governor Gavin Newsom has his problems, but I'm urging California to vote no on this recall, um, and that's
Fine.
because. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't know if you could see my screen.
Oh no, I couldn't see your screen. I think because Ladarian put like
Yeah,
the.
Ladarian, don't zoom in on people. That way we can all still see each other.
Okay.
All right, cool. And I'll do my 90 seconds as well. So one thing I've noticed in the previous two speeches about in affirmation of Gavin Newsom is that 90% of it had everything to do with why Larry Elder shouldn't be governor and why we need a Democrat in the government. What I didn't hear was specific achievements Gavin Newsom achieved, besides what I heard was lowering COVID numbers. Here I heard basically protecting women's rights, which Gavin Newsom isn't even campaigning on. In fact, he's actively fighting against women's rights with his family's involvement with protecting Harvey Weinstein and trying to silence his accusers. I heard, let's see, about protecting the economy and the big Democrat one-liner that the California is the fifth largest economy in the world if it were by itself, even when we're not accounting for California having one of the highest income equality track records in the nation, even compared to Republican states. When we compare California as far as when it comes to the housing crisis, as far as the median cost of living when it comes to California, and we can do a comparison between California versus Texas all day, but I would like to hear from either of them why Gavin Newsom specifically should be maintaining the governorship, because if we don't hear that, we're only hearing don't vote Larry Elder. We want Democrats in there. Then let's support some new Democrat governor to replace Newsom. That's all I have to say.
Well, I personally think, this is just my standpoint. I don't remember the dude name who's a Democrat. Rob, do you remember the dude that's another Democrat that's right for the ballot for the recall election?
Kevin Paffrath.
Him. I don't know who he is. I don't know if he's even a real politician. I don't know if he has political experience. But it's better than having nothing. I mean, if Larry Elder does pull this off, not saying that he will, but if he does pull this off, I mean, like the majority of the state house and the state is controlled by California Democrats. So if he does become governor, all they're gonna do is not pass his legislation through. They're gonna block everything he passes. So I mean, it's not gonna be big of a deal. California has, it's a heavy Democratic state. I mean, like it's not turning red anytime soon. So I mean, if Mr. Larry Elder becomes the governor, then they're not gonna pass anything he does.
Yeah, and what Ladarian was saying, California should not and is not going to turn red anytime soon, but it has done so in the past with Arnold Schwarzenegger and with Ronald Reagan. But I think times have changed, and California is more liberal and Republican. I mean, California is more liberal, Democrat, and progressive than it was, 12, 20 years ago when it was red. But one of the things I want to focus on is this is a Republican recall. The
Mm-hmm.
Republicans have pushed this through, and they spent millions and hundreds of millions of dollars on this recall when we could have put that into affordable housing, fighting climate change, cleaning up our forests, um, tax incentives for the middle class. So I just don't think that it's right now was the time to be recalling our governor. Yeah, he's not the perfect governor. There's no perfect governor, but right now. Why don't we do that in the general election, in the midterms? But Republicans are too scared because just like the Darian said, um, they're just rushing to do things, and they just want California to go red as soon as possible.
It's more saving 55 million people. I mean, something to consider. I'm sorry, however many million people are in California. And as far as all the issues in California that even you guys have addressed, I mean, keep in mind this is a guy who's been in office for 10, almost 11 years now. He was elected in 2010, and we're talking about a housing crisis and not reliable, affordable housing. We're talking about a guy who supposedly protects the environment, but removed $150 billion from the state fire department and then lied about it. And then wildfires completely ravaged California. I mean, if we're going to be talking about a guy who wants to protect the environment or reduce the housing crisis, why? Again, I ask of you, let's recall Gavin Newsom, who is reliably against both of these issues. And if you guys believe Larry Elder isn't the guy, since you guys are so afraid of him, so afraid of a black man being governor, pick a Democrat who
Hold
you
on.
think would be
Hold
good
on.
for California.
Hold on. It's not because he's black. I'm very proud that he's running as a black man. I'm proud of it. I'm proud that he's running as a black man. He looks like me in the face, so I'm proud of that. But anyways, it doesn't. I don't have a problem with Larry. I just don't agree with his policies. It's just I don't care if he's black, white, red, or polka dot. I don't care. I do not care whatsoever. I don't care that he's trying to put on a persona that he cares about California when he really doesn't. So I mean,
Explain that.
okay, let's the man literally said he wants to abolish minimum wage.
Talk
That
about
will,
that.
that will literally damage the state of California. That's like Governor Abbott saying he thought to abolish minimum wage in Texas. This is a heavy red state. And at least Governor Abbott didn't say he was going to abolish minimum wage. At least he got more sense than he do. I mean, I'm just saying.
Ladarian, how about instead of, well, you had this issue last time. I want you to explain it, okay?
Okay, I'll
So,
explain. I'll go
yeah.
deeper. I'll go
Mhm.
deeper. You won't you want a Republican who wants to abolish and remove every Democratic policy that Governor Newsom left behind. And we understand that Governor Newsom is not the perfect, governor. It's no such thing as a perfect governor whatsoever. And I get the fact that that was a problem with him not wearing the mask thing. That's very hypocritical. I think that's a very hypocritical. We can all agree on that. That is very hypocritical. But this is just going. He's just going. Once he's elected to the governorship, if he's elected, all he's going to do is undo all of Newsom's policies, plus abolish the minimum wage. What's your minimum wage up there? 7.25,
14.
14. Okay, that's okay. $14 an hour. If he abolished that, then how workers will be? I'm just saying, workers will be disadvantaged. And there's many workers in California that will be disadvantaged if he abolishes the minimum wage. How are they gonna get paid? The decent hour of salary.
All right, so let's talk about two things. One, I want you to go more in depth into minimum wage, specifically say, okay, what will happen if minimum wage is abolished, and go in depth, be more specific, because Ladarian, I want you to actually give your own personal ideas about this, not rely on Democrat buzzwords. And second, I'm
First of
curious
all,
of you, but one second,
I'm not
the
relying
second,
on Democratic
just
work.
one second, I have one other thing to ask you. If Gavin Newsom has not met the threshold where you're like, okay, you know, he's still a Democrat, so he needs to be remaining in the governorship. At what point do we say, or you guys as Democrats or progressives say, okay, this guy's a bad dude, he needs to be recalled regardless of what party affiliation he is? Like, for example, Andrew Cuomo, did he meet that line?
Yes, he did. He met
All right.
there.
So how did Newsom not meet that line?
I mean, I think it's very funny that the man made one mistake. I don't know about this Weinstein, whatever you call it, Weinstein people. Who is that? Who is Weinstein?
Harvey Weinstein, the guy who originally spurred the Me Too movement because he sexually
Oh,
assaulted many of
okay.
his actors, and then his Gavin Newsom's
That,
wife tried to silence his accuser.
him personally, he should be prosecuted, not the government. He should be the one prosecuted for that.
You
It's not the
mean
government. It's
Newsom's
not
wife,
this who.
who tried to silence his accuser?
So you saying the governor did sexually assaulted
No, no,
a?
no. The governor did not sexually assault anyone. Gavin Newsom's wife
Mhm.
emailed Harvey Weinstein's accuser and said, "What can we do to make this go away?" specifically on Harvey Weinstein.
Do you have any facts for that? I mean, we could.
I can cite, but
Okay,
again, so go into minimum wage. I'll find that site.
okay. Minimum wage. Okay, now the minimum wage. The purpose of the minimum wage is to pay workers their salary. Is to pay workers an hour as they get on the job. Now, say for instance, our minimum wage out here in Texas, if I'm correct, is $7.25 an hour. Say if Governor Abbott says, "I want to abolish that," it's bad enough that our minimum wage out here is not even enough. So to abolish that will cause major workers in the workforce in this state, and this state has already surpassed the low minimum wage. And that's why I'm highly in favor not only the $15 minimum wage. I'm highly in favor between 14 or $15 an hour. It doesn't matter to me. But what I'm not in favor of is abolishing something that will impact workers negatively.
So by impacting workers negatively, so the value of someone's labor is based on the market share and the skill level required to do such labor. So if the minimum wage is abolished, you believe that wages will decrease. So are you saying that as of right now, wages are artificially being inflated higher than the value of their labor?
What I'm saying is that the wages are important to our workers. That's what I'm trying to say.
And even with California's higher minimum wage, one of the highest in the country,
Mhm.
uh, people are still struggling to afford housing, right? Because you mentioned either you or Gonzalez mentioned the housing crisis, right?
I think that was Robert who mentioned you mentioned the housing crisis, right?
Yeah, I mean, what Connor was saying, yeah, he's totally right. We have a housing crisis. We have the highest minimum wage in the nation, and yet we still can't afford to pay the minimum for rent in California. And so I give Connor that. But what I'm trying to say is that, you know, just because Newsom's a Democrat doesn't mean, he's going to start being aligned with our issues. There's moderates, there's progressives, there's liberals, there's conservative Democrats, etc. But what I'm trying to say is that even though California has its problems, I don't think right now is the time to remove Governor Newsom. Republicans could have done so in the general election, but like Ladarian said, they're scared because California is overwhelmingly Democrat, and Governor Gavin Newsom is in a good position to win tomorrow. But what Connor was saying about the minimum wage and what Ladarian was arguing with is that what Larry Alder said, and again we're focusing on Larry Alder because if Newsom was to be recalled, Larry Alder is showing first in the polls, right, to become the next governor. And so what that means, if over 50% vote yes on the recall, Larry Alder has a good shot at becoming governor. But nonetheless, what he said about a couple years ago, he said, and I'm going to quote him, the minimum wage ought to be $0, end quote. So that means that he doesn't believe the minimum wage should be what it is now. And economists have also debated that there shouldn't be a minimum wage, that there should be a minimum wage, but I believe there should be a minimum wage because, like Ladarian said, workers deserve their salaries. And what Connor was saying about how a worker's worth shouldn't be based off the minimum wage, is that what you were saying on Connor?
So I said a worker's someone's labor is worth however much a business believes they should be paid. So, for example, if it requires, say, a medical license or a law degree in order to do your job, you should be paid significantly higher because there are significantly less people who can do your job. But let's say you work at your local McDonald's. Almost anyone is functional enough and capable enough to flip burgers all day or talk to customers on a daily basis. It's not really something that requires skill or requires education. And so then the wage is obviously going to be lower in those areas. So when the state artificially increases the wages, what we see is companies deciding to cut either by cutting out workers, either by laying them off or by delaying their increase in wages. And the other thing that we see is when we artificially say that we are raising the wages for everyone in the state, we see cost of living increase around the entire state. So, for example, California's housing crisis, which we've mentioned a few times, California's housing crisis is currently the third largest in the United States, only beaten by fellow blue strongholds, New York and Hawaii. So as far as this is something that is naturally democratic strongholds where we see housing crisis issues. So if you want to talk about abolishing the minimum wage and saying that we're going to be kicking workers to the street and things like that, why don't we fight the housing crisis instead?
Well, I mean, I think we've tried to, but the problem is, I mean, if anybody who takes a government class, we know that there's a federal, state, and local level, right? When the state passes, let's say Gavin Newsom today signs an executive order to, I don't know, put $10 million into public housing. Those $10 million are distributed to cities, right? So I live in Fontana. The closest big city to me is Los Angeles. Let's say $5 million goes to Los Angeles. Now that local government, Mayor Eric Garcetti, right? He's in charge of distributing that into his city. What happens is corruption. They pocket $2 million. They give developers an extra $5 million. The public is left with what, like $2 million, $1 million to spend, and that's nothing. Like Connor said earlier, we have about 55 million residents in California, and I don't know the exact number, but we have a
Right,
large population, right?
39.5 million. 39.5.
39.5, and I know it's been decreasing a little bit. So
Mhm.
so like what I'm saying is it's corruption, it's greed, it's corporate greed, and that's the result of capitalism.
See, if we're going to talk about blaming capitalism for this, then why is California, New York, Hawaii uniquely having these housing issues? We're seeing democratic strongholds having these issues. You guys keep saying Larry Elder is the devil, essentially. He's the blackface of white supremacy, the New York Times specifically stated, which was hilarious. But if we're talking about this housing crisis, which keep in mind, Newsom has had almost 11 years to make a dent in, and he now is promising, if you keep me in, yes, he's been in office since 2010, and he said, hey guys, give me like 5 more years. In 2025, we're going to get this. But if we're going to compare Larry Newsom, or I'm sorry, combine the two, Larry Elder with Gavin Newsom, because Larry Elder specifically said that he's going to use Texas as a model for how he's going to run California. Let's compare the two. Texas, for example, has a median home price of $195,000. California, on the other hand, has almost 3 times that at $552,000. If we're going to be talking about a housing crisis, let's talk about the cost of living in California and Texas, where instead of actually trying to solve the problem, he's just throwing money at it. And you're saying it's corporate greed and capitalism. If that's the case, Texas being one of the biggest red states and one of the least business regulated states in the nation, why aren't they having a much larger housing crisis than Texas? I'm sorry, than California.
Okay, hold on. You said Larry Elder said he was going to use the Texas model. Let me stop you right there.
Hmm?
It cannot be like us. California is way more different than the state of Texas. Way more different.
Explain.
They're 2 large states, but California is much more larger than Texas.
Right. Texas is the second largest state in the union. If
Yeah.
Larry Elder were to run California, it's going to be pretty much similar model, except he's actually going to be trying to get people out of poverty. He's going to be attempting to lower the crime rate. Like instead of Gavin Newsom, what he was doing, where as crime soared, he decided to let out 20,000 criminals ahead of their release date. I mean, if we're going to be talking about someone who is putting money in the wrong places and putting policies in the wrong places, let's talk about Gavin Newsom. You guys keep getting so scared of Larry Elder, but you aren't talking about Gavin Newsom's problems.
Hold on, Robert. I'm not scared of the man. The man sounds very smart to me. It's not because he's black like me, because I'm black too. It has nothing to do with him being black or with him being. I just don't agree with him. I think
I'm scared of Larry Elder. I mean,
Robert, you're not helping. I don't have the right to believe in him. I don't have the right to agree to his policy. Just like you don't believe in Democrats, I don't believe in Republicans' morals. I just don't. Me and Larry that's my brother for life because he black. That's my brother. But he's not the one that California needs at this point.
Okay.
I mean, like what Ladarian was saying, yeah, I mean, he's African American, but it doesn't mean he's the right choice. I'm talking about that you can be African American, right? And you can be a Democrat or Republican, independent, Green Party, whatever. But it's what side of the aisle you're on. If you're an African American and you're a Republican, and there's another African American on the Democrat side, I'd rather vote for the one on the Democrat side because that aligns more to my issues, right? To my values. But what Connor was saying about about Larry Elder, or no, Darian was saying about Larry Elder about not being scared of him. I think I'm scared of him if he becomes governor, and yes, I'll admit that because he's a crazy radical Trump Republican who wants to get rid of the minimum wage. He wants to abolish the Cal Grant, which a lot of Californians depend on to go to college and actually, make something out of themselves instead of, and with all respects to McDonald's workers, but a lot of people don't want to go work at, fast food. I worked in fast food before. It's horrible. And I was only getting paid $12 an hour. Now I'm making, a little bit more than that. So
Now,
and I don't
Robert,
have a college degree yet.
now can any other schmo who probably didn't even graduate high school, can they do the job that you did at McDonald's?
No, and a lot of people can't.
What did you do? If you don't
I
mind me
was a
asking.
drive. No, yeah, I was a cashier for the drive-through. And if any of you have been to McDonald's, those lines can get ridiculous.
All right, well, I have to go, but I'm just going to leave you guys with this. McDonald's former CEO specifically stated that they are switching to automation on the basis of the United States moving to a $15 minimum wage. That is losing 1 million McDonald's workers on the basis of we're raising wages too much to the point where automation is actually becoming cheaper. So,
Well, I don't, and here's the scary thing about this is the scariest thing. The scary thing is that just think about it. Think about this. People in California does not like Larry Elder because simply he says things like abolishing minimum wage. That's a scare tactic. Of course, people are going to be scared, but we'll talk more about this later. People are going to be scared that this man going to abolish minimum wage. I would be scared if Greg Abbott said he was going to abolish minimum wage. But anyways, I believe it at that. He's going to win regardless anyway tomorrow. Don't be scared, Robert. You're shaking pretty bad.
I just hope Gavin Newsom comes out on top, and then in the midterms we could figure out who to replace Gavin Newsom with because he's done some things that I don't agree with, but I
Mhm.
just don't think Larry Elder is the person to replace Governor Newsom right
Right,
now.
right. Well, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm gonna let you know if I get my form back because I signed up for the leadership thing for
Yeah,
Please for Change. I'm gonna come back and let you know. I see you later. I'll call you in the morning.
got it. Okay, bye,
Oh,
Ladarian.
bye.